People praised her pastries, yet no one questioned why her customers kept coming back hungry. Until one quiet customer decided to pay attention, and what she discovered shocked everyone. In the heart of Nairobi, Kenya, a small bakery called Maya's Sweet Paradise sat along a busy street. The owner, Maya, had the softest hands and the gentlest smile. Her cakes looked beautiful, her bread smelled heavenly, and her customers always left satisfied, or so it seemed. But something strange was happening. Customers who bought her bread returned within days, complaining of terrible stomach pain. They didn't blame her. They thought it was stress, bad water, or something they ate elsewhere. They trusted Maya completely. What they didn't know was that Maya had a secret ingredient, and that secret was slowly destroying everything she built. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're building an amazing community here, and I don't want you to miss the next chapter. Turn on notifications so you'll know exactly when drops. Let's continue this journey together. Before Maya owned a bakery, she was an apprentice under a popular baker named Miss Caroline. She worked there for 4 years, but she did not learn much because Miss Caroline never trusted her with real customers. Miss Caroline allowed Maya to only sweep floors, wash mixing bowls, and run errands to the market. Maya wanted to learn properly, but each time she tried to watch closely or practice kneading dough, Miss Caroline shouted, "You are not ready. If I allow you, you will ruin someone's order." Meanwhile, other girls who started after her were already baking for customers and making small money on weekends. They bought new clothes and shoes. Maya could not. Her mother sold vegetables by the roadside. Her younger sister was often sick and needed medicine. Sometimes they went to bed hungry. Yet Maya could not complain because she believed one day she would become a professional baker and help her family. She dreamed of owning her own shop, where the smell of fresh bread would fill the air every morning. Then one rainy season, Miss Caroline suddenly fell sick and closed the bakery for 2 months. She did not pay any of the apprentices and told them to wait until she returned. Those 2 months were very hard for Maya. She stayed at home with no income, no hope, and no plan. She tried to help her mother at the vegetable stall, but did not bring enough money. One evening, she sat outside their small house, watching the rain. Tears rolled down her cheeks quietly. She wondered if she had wasted her time. She wondered if Miss Caroline ever planned to certify her or let her go. A neighbor who knew her story advised her, "If you are waiting for Miss Caroline to settle you, you may wait forever. If you know you can do this work, start small. Nobody starts big." That night, Maya did not sleep well. She kept thinking about those words. The next week, she used the small money she had saved over the years and rented a very small wooden shop along a busy street. She cleaned it thoroughly, arranged one small oven she borrowed from a friend, bought basic baking supplies, and set up 2 plastic chairs for customers. Nothing was perfect, but it was hers. She opened her bakery with a small handwritten sign outside. Maya's Sweet Paradise, fresh and affordable. The road ahead was not easy, but she told herself, "I will do everything to make this work." She did not know that this promise would later push her into decisions she never planned to make. When Maya opened her bakery, she expected that once people tasted her bread and pastries, they would return again and again. That was how she believed businesses grew. She arrived early every morning, cleaned the shop, preheated her small oven, and waited with hope. In her first week, a few people came. Some wanted mandatsi, some wanted chapati, and some came for simple loaves of bread. They were mostly neighbors and church members who wanted to support her new business. She handled all orders gently and carefully. She did not rush or complain. She baked with patience, the same way she used to dream of when she was still an apprentice. When each customer bit into their warm bread or tasted her sweet mandatsi, they smiled with satisfaction. One of them said, "Maya, you have a gift. This is delicious. I will come back." Another said, "This bread is so soft and fresh. Let me take a photo." Someone even promised to bring her entire family on the weekend. Those words made Maya's heart feel warm. She believed she was finally walking into her future. But 3 weeks passed, and none of them returned. She waited every day, sometimes from morning until evening. but no familiar customer walked in. At first, she thought maybe they were busy or planning to return when their bread finished. She kept faith. However, she started seeing them outside, in a market, at church, at the junction, buying bread from other sellers. Anytime she greeted them, they replied with joy, "Oh, Maya, your bread was so filling. I'm still full from last week." Some even added proudly, "Your mandotsi lasted me 3 days. I shared it with my whole family." They said it as a compliment, but to Maya, it was becoming a problem. People love her baking so much that they did not need to return soon. Some came only once a month. Some came after 3 full weeks, or even more. Her hands were skilled, but her shop was not growing. Soon, reality started pressing her chest. Her shop rent was due. She needed to buy flour and sugar again. Transport and food money was increasing. Her mother needed support. Her sister was still sick often. She had no side income, no partner, no sponsor. She tried reducing her prices, but that only brought people who bought once and disappeared for several weeks. She tried offering free tea for returning customers, but nobody returned fast enough to enjoy it. One evening, she sat alone in her bakery, her head resting on the small counter. She looked around the space she built with her last savings, and fear entered her heart for the first time. She asked herself, "Can talent alone carry me? What if the shop closes like Miss Caroline's? What if all my years of apprenticeship became useless? How will my family survive?" That was when she remembered something Annie Rose once told her in the market months ago. Repeat customers are the secret to survival. She repeated it softly to herself that night. Repeat customers. Repeat customers. She lay awake on her mat, staring at the ceiling, thinking deeply about it. She did not sleep until morning. By the next week, her situation grew worse. Bills increased. Customers reduced. New ones did not come often. She knew she needed to do something different, something that would make customers return faster. But she didn't know what it would be yet. All she knew was that she could not continue like this. And that was how the first dangerous idea entered her mind. Not as evil, but as survival. After many quiet days in the bakery, Maya started watching how other bakers in the area ran their businesses. She noticed something she never thought about before. Some bakeries were always full, even when their bread was not as soft as hers. Some customers went back to the same baker every few days, no matter how dry or tasteless the bread was. Some even complained loudly, but still returned. That made her think, maybe returning is not always about perfection. One afternoon, while she was buying supplies at a local shop, she overheard 2 bakers talking. "My customers always come back fast," one bragged. "That's because your bread doesn't fill them properly," the other replied, laughing. Maya walked out silently, but those words stayed with her. That night, she sat with her mother in their small sitting room. Her mother didn't know anything was wrong. She only said, "Maya, don't give up. God will help you." Maya nodded, but her mind kept wondering, what will make customers come back? What will make them hungry faster? What will make their stomachs demand more? Then she remembered something. During her days with Miss Caroline, she once saw Caroline throw away a container of baking powder and complain, "This powder is too strong. If I use it wrongly, it will upset people's stomachs." That memory lit a small spark in Maya's mind. She did not jump into the idea immediately. She spent days thinking, pacing around her small shop, checking her nearly empty supply shelf, staring at her rent reminder slip. After 2 more silent days and only one paying customer, the fear returned. If I don't do something, this bakery will close. She went to the market and bought a small container of harsh laxative powder, something normally used for constipation. She did not buy it to harm people, but because she believed if customers felt uncomfortable earlier, they would return sooner for fresh bread. She sat alone in her shop after closing time, placed the laxative beside her normal baking ingredients, and stared at both containers for a long time. A part of her said, "This is wrong. Don't do it." Another part replied, "You are not harming them seriously. They will only come back faster. You are only trying to survive." She mixed a very small portion of the laxative powder into her bread flour, stirred it well, and transferred it into an unlabeled container so no one would ask questions. Her heart beat fast as she hid it inside her storage box. The next morning, Her first customer came for fresh bread. Maya baked it carefully, using the new mixture. She did not explain. She did not advertise. She simply said her usual line, fresh from the oven, soft and healthy. She did the same for the next 2 customers that week. At first, nothing happened. But 3 days later, she heard a familiar voice calling from outside. Maya, please, I need more bread. My stomach has been running since yesterday. Then another came that same evening. Then another the day after. They did not insult her. They did not suspect her. They simply came back for more, believing her bread would help settle their stomachs. They all paid. She acted gentle and concerned. She told them, it's normal. Sometimes digestion changes. Come back anytime you need fresh bread. Within 3 weeks, her bakery changed from almost empty to always busy. What she wanted had started working. But she did not know she had opened a door she was not strong enough to close. Within a short time, Maya's bakery became the busiest in her area. Customers no longer kept bread for 2 or 3 days. By the 2nd or 3rd day, they were already returning to her shop, holding their stomachs and asking for more. Some came very early in the morning before work. Some rushed in during lunch break. Some came looking worried, confused, or uncomfortable. Maya always welcomed them with a calm face, even though she already knew what they came for. It's okay, she would say. Sit down. I'll bake fresh bread for you right now. They paid again, sometimes even more than before. Soon, every week felt like month end. Her pockets stayed full. Her shelves were always stocked with flour, sugar, and supplies. She upgraded her shop gradually. A new standing fan, a bigger oven, a glass display case for pastries, branded paper bags with her bakery name, a new signboard outside painted in bright colors. People outside even started calling her the caring baker because she never turned away customers, no matter the time. And because so many customers were returning often, she came up with another money idea: stomach relief biscuits. She bought empty containers, designed stickers with her bakery name, and filled them with plain ginger biscuits. She told customers they would help settle their stomachs. It brought short relief, and customers believed it was working. Soon she was earning from bread, pastries, and her special biscuits. Her income tripled. She sent money home more often. Her mother prayed for her loudly, thanking God for blessing her daughter. Her sister received proper medical care. They moved to a slightly bigger house. Everything looked like success. Maya bought new clothes. She hired a young assistant to help with cleaning and deliveries. She even started planning to open a second location. People in the neighborhood praised her. Church members called her an example of hard work. Young girls looked up to her, saying, "If Maya can make it, so can we." But beneath all the praise, something was changing inside her. She was no longer the humble apprentice who dreamed of honest success. She was now someone who had tasted easy money, and it felt too good to stop. At first, she told herself she was still using small amounts. She told herself no one was getting seriously hurt. She told herself it was just business strategy, not harm. But slowly, she started increasing the dosage. A little more laxative powder in the flour, then slightly more. Then she began experimenting with other substances, cheap additives that made people feel hungry faster, ingredients that didn't fully satisfy. She told herself she was still in control. She told herself nothing serious would happen. But she was no longer the same person who opened that small shop with honest dreams. One afternoon, a woman returned looking pale and weak. "Maya, I've been so sick. My stomach won't stop running. I can't even go to work properly." Maya's heart skipped, but she hid her reaction. "I'm so sorry to hear that. Maybe it's the water in your area, or something else you ate. Here, take this ginger biscuit. It will help." The woman nodded innocently, paid, and left. That same week, another customer came saying her children were also having stomach problems after eating Maya's bread. Still, no one suspected her. They kept returning. They kept paying. They kept trusting. Maya should have stopped. But money feels sweeter when it comes easily. And stopping felt like going back to struggle again. She convinced herself it wasn't that serious. She convinced herself people were just being dramatic. She convinced herself she was smarter than everyone else. What she did not know was that someone had started observing quietly. and that silence was more dangerous than any complaint. Among the many women who visited Maya's bakery, there was one quiet lady named Amara. She wasn't loud, she didn't gossip, and she didn't like staying long in crowded places. She only came because her colleague at work recommended Maya. She bought bread and mandazzi, ate them at home, and found them delicious. But 3 days later, Amara returned with serious discomfort. She wasn't shouting or crying like others. She was calm and observant. She walked into the bakery and spoke softly. "Maya, I've been having terrible stomach problems since I ate your bread. Can you help me understand why?" Maya smiled gently and handed her a ginger biscuit. "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Sometimes our bodies react to different things. This biscuit will help settle your stomach." As Maya spoke, Amara watched her closely. Her hands, her movements, her eyes. Something didn't feel normal. Each time customers complained, Maya looked too relaxed, too ready, too prepared, like she already knew what they came for. But Amara didn't say anything. She simply paid and left. 2 days later, Amara visited her friend Zuri at her house and explained her experience. To her surprise, Zuri said, "The same thing happened to me when I bought bread there last week. I thought it was just me." That was when Amara became sure it wasn't random. She didn't report Maya. She didn't make noise. She didn't confront her. She only said, "Let's go back to her bakery together. But I want to watch her carefully this time." Zuri agreed. They went to the bakery together the next morning and pretended everything was normal. Zuri acted like a brand new customer and ordered fresh bread and pastries. Amara sat quietly, like she was just keeping her friend company, but her eyes never left Maya. Maya welcomed them warmly, not suspecting anything. She chatted and laughed as usual, asking about their day and recommending her special fresh batch. While preparing the order, Maya moved naturally, measuring flour, kneading dough, and placing items in the oven. But Amara noticed something strange. After removing the bread from the oven, Maya stepped aside to a small storage area. She opened a drawer carefully, glanced around quickly, and brought out an unlabeled plastic container. It was not sitting with the other ingredients on the open shelf. It was hidden. Maya scooped a small amount of white powder from the container and mixed it into the flour she was using for Zuri's order. Amara's heart began to beat faster, but she still didn't speak. She waited. When Maya finished baking and started packaging the bread, she smiled brightly. "This is my freshest batch today. You'll love it." Zuri was about to pay and leave, but Amara stood up. "Wait." The bakery went quiet. Maya froze. Amara stepped closer and looked directly into Maya's eyes. "What was that powder you just added?" Maya's smile faded. Her hand trembled slightly. She forced a nervous laugh. "What powder? I only use my normal ingredients." Amara pointed to the drawer. "The white powder from that unlabeled container." "What is it?" Zuri's face changed. "You added something? What did you put in my bread?" 2 other customers who were waiting outside heard the rising voices and stepped inside. "What's happening? What's wrong?" The pressure increased. There was no easy escape. Someone said loudly, "If it's just normal flour, why is it hidden in a drawer? Why isn't it labeled?" Another customer, a woman who had been buying from Maya for weeks, suddenly connected the dots. "Wait, I've been sick every time I eat here. Is that why?" More voices joined. "Me too. My children too. I thought it was just bad luck." Maya's breathing became heavy. Her palms were sweating. She held the container tightly, as if letting go would release her secret completely. Finally, her voice cracked. I'm sorry. Please. I didn't mean to hurt anybody." The entire bakery erupted. The bakery that was once filled with laughter, warm bread, and happy customers now felt like a courtroom. Some customers screamed. Some cried out of shock. Some stood frozen, unable to believe what they just heard. "You poison us?" One woman shouted, tears streaming down her face. "I've been suffering for weeks. I couldn't even work properly." Another woman grabbed her child's hand tightly. "My son has been vomiting. I took him to the clinic 3 times. And it was you all along." Zuri stepped back, staring at the bread she almost took home. She dropped it on the counter in disgust. "I trusted you, Maya. I brought my friends here. I recommended you to my neighbors." Maya's legs felt weak. She couldn't look anyone in the eye. Her hand shook as she tried to speak. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just trying to survive." "Survive?" someone shouted from the crowd. "By making us sick." Amara, still standing calmly but firmly, asked the question that silenced everyone. "How long have you been doing this?" Maya's lips trembled. She couldn't answer. Amara continued, her voice steady but cold. "How many people have suffered because of your greed?" The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. Someone outside yelled, "Call the police. She has to answer for this." Within 15 minutes, a crowd had formed around the bakery. Neighbors, passers-by, and even other shop owners came to see what was happening. 2 police officers arrived shortly after. They walked into the bakery, saw the unlabeled container on the counter, and immediately understood the situation. "Who owns this business?" one officer asked. Maya raised her hand slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "I do. Come with us." Maya didn't argue. She didn't shout. She didn't try to run. She simply picked up her small bag, locked eyes with her young assistant, who stood in the corner crying, and walked out. As the officers led her away, the crowd outside shouted insults. Some spat on the ground. Some shook their heads in disappointment. Her mother, who heard the commotion from down the street, came running. When she saw her daughter being taken away, she screamed, "Maya! Maya, what happened?" But Maya couldn't answer. She only looked down as tears rolled silently down her cheeks. The bakery, once a symbol of her dreams, now stood empty and dark. At the police station, Maya sat on a hard plastic chair with swollen eyes and trembling hands. The officer on duty asked her to explain everything from the beginning. Maya took a deep breath and told her full story. From her years as an apprentice under Miss Caroline, to how customers didn't return, to how bills piled up, to how she remembered Annie Rose's words about repeat customers. She didn't hide anything. She explained how the idea came, how she started small, how it worked, and how she got carried away. The officer listened and wrote silently. When she finished, he looked at her and said, "You wanted progress, but your method was wrong. In business, shortcuts always have consequences." Maya lowered her head. Tears dropped on her palms. Later that evening, her mother arrived at the station, crying and holding her wrapper tightly. "Maya, why? You didn't tell me you were suffering like this. We would have found another way." Maya cried even harder, wishing she could go back in time and stop herself before it started. After hours of pleading, the officers allowed her to stay in a holding room for the night instead of a cell, pending discussions with the victims. Community elders promised to mediate if the victims agreed to settle outside of court. But the damage was already done. The next morning, someone unexpected walked into the station. It was Annie Rose. She looked older than Maya remembered, but her voice was still the same. "Maya, what happened?" she asked calmly. Maya stood up with shaking legs and rushed to her. "You told me repeat customers are the secret. I was only trying to survive. I didn't want my bakery to die." Rose stared at her for a long, painful moment. Then she said quietly, "Maya, when I said repeat customers, I meant build relationships and trust. Treat people well. Be honest, and they will return. I never meant hurting them." Maya froze. Those words hit harder than any insult. Rose added, "Yes, business is hard. Yes, competition is tough. But if success destroys others, it will eventually destroy you too." More tears rolled down Maya's face as she whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't think it would turn out like this." Rose held her hand gently, but her eyes carried deep disappointment. "You have talent, Maya, but talent without patience becomes poison." Those words stayed in Maya's heart like a scar. For 3 days, Maya remained at the police station while community leaders tried to arrange a meeting with the victims. It was not easy. Many people were still angry, hurt, and demanding justice. Some wanted her arrested and charged in court. Others wanted compensation for medical bills and suffering. A few simply wanted an apology and a promise that she would never open another bakery. Maya's mother spent those days visiting the homes of those who were affected, begging for mercy. "Please," she would say, tears in her eyes, "I know what my daughter did was wrong. But please, let us settle this peacefully. She is young. She made a terrible mistake." Some people softened. Others remained firm. Finally, on the 4th day, A meeting was arranged at the local community hall. About 20 victims gathered, along with their family members, elders, a representative from the health clinic, and Maya. Maya sat at the front, her head low, her hands folded in her lap. She had not eaten much. She had not slept well. Guilt had become a heavy weight on her chest. One by one, the victims stood and spoke. A young mother stood first, holding her toddler. My son couldn't stop crying because of stomach pain. I spent money I didn't have taking him to the clinic. I missed work. I was stressed and confused. And all of it was because of her greed. An elderly man spoke next. I am retired. I don't have much money. I trusted her because she seemed kind, but she made me sick for her own benefit. That is wickedness. Zuri stood and spoke calmly but firmly. I recommended her to my friends, my co-workers, even my family. Now I feel ashamed. I feel like I helped her hurt people. Each testimony was like a sharp knife cutting deeper into Maya's heart. When it was her turn to speak, she stood slowly. Her voice was shaky, and tears began falling before she even said a word. I know sorry is not enough, she began. I know I hurt you. I know I broke your trust. I was struggling, and I made a terrible choice. I thought I was just trying to survive, but I was really being selfish and greedy. I didn't think about your pain. I only thought about my business. She paused, wiping her eyes. I will do whatever it takes to make this right. I will pay for medical bills. I will compensate anyone who asks. I will never, ever do this again. Please, I am begging for your forgiveness. The room was silent for a moment. Then one of the elders, an old man with gray hair and a calm voice, stood up. We have heard both sides. Maya's actions were wrong. There's no question about that. But we are also a community that believes in second chances. We do not want to destroy a young woman's future completely. We want justice, but we also want restoration. He turned to the victims. If she compensates you fairly, if she closes that bakery and never uses such methods again, will you agree to settle this matter here? There was murmuring. Some people nodded. Others hesitated. Amara, the quiet woman who first exposed the truth, stood up. I will agree to settle, but only if she also does community service. She must work with a local health organization and educate other young business owners about ethical practices. Her story should be a warning, not a secret. The room agreed. It was fair. After more discussion, the terms were finalized. Maya would pay for all medical expenses and provide compensation to each victim. She would close her bakery permanently and never sell food products in that community again. She would complete 6 months of community service, speaking to young entrepreneurs about honesty in business. She would issue a public apology. Maya agreed to everything without hesitation. 1 week later, after all paperwork was completed and payments were made, Maya was officially released. The case would not go to court, but though she was free, she did not feel free. Her reputation was broken. Her dream was dead, and the guilt remained. The day she returned home, she walked slowly to her old bakery. The signboard had already been taken down by someone in the neighborhood. The windows were dusty. The door was locked. She stood outside for a long time, staring at the empty space that once represented everything she wanted. Her mother came and stood beside her. Maya, it's over now. You must move forward. Maya nodded, but inside she didn't know how. For almost 2 weeks after her release, Maya stayed indoors. She did not go to the market. She did not visit friends. She barely spoke to anyone except her mother and younger sister. She spent her days sitting quietly, thinking, praying, and crying. Shame had become her constant companion. Every time she remembered the faces of the people she hurt, her chest tightened. Her mother tried to encourage her. Maya, you made a mistake, but you are not your mistake. You're still young. You still have a future. But Maya couldn't see it. All she could see was failure. One morning, her younger sister, Nia, sat beside her on the small mat where she spent most of her time. Nia was only 14, but she was wise beyond her years. Sister, Nia said softly, you can sit here and cry forever, or you can stand up and prove that you learned something. Maya looked at her with tired eyes. Nia, no one will ever trust me again. How can I start over? Nia held her hand. You start by doing something different. You start by helping people instead of hurting them. Those words stayed with Maya for the rest of the day. That evening, she finally left the house and walked to the community hall where she would begin her service. A woman named Mrs. Wanjiku, who worked with a local health and business organization, was waiting for her. Mrs. Wanjiku was strict but kind. She did not sugarcoat anything. "Maya," she said firmly, "I know what you did. Everyone knows. But I also believe people can change. If you're serious about making this right, you will work hard. You will be humble, and you will use your story to help others avoid your mistakes." Maya nodded. "I will do my best." Her first task was to visit small business owners in nearby neighborhoods and speak to them about ethical business practices. At first, it was terrifying. Standing in front of strangers and admitting what she had done felt like opening an old wound over and over again. But she did it anyway. At her first meeting, she stood in front of about 15 young entrepreneurs, bakers, tailors, food vendors, and shopkeepers. Her voice shook as she introduced herself. "My name is Maya. Some of you may have heard about me. I owned a bakery that became very successful, but I built that success on lies and harm. I poisoned my customers because I was impatient and greedy. I lost everything, and I hurt people I should have served." The room was silent. Some people looked at her with pity, others with judgment, but everyone was listening. She continued, "I'm here to tell you that shortcuts are not worth it. Fast success built on harm will always collapse. If you want your business to last, build it with honesty, patience, and care for your customers. Don't make my mistake." After she spoke, a few people asked questions. One young woman asked, "What would you have done differently?" Maya thought for a moment, then answered, "I would have trusted the process. I would have believed that good work, even if it grows slowly, is better than fast money built on deception. I would have asked for help instead of trying to cheat my way to success." By the end of the session, a few people came up to her and thanked her for being honest. One man said, "Your story will save someone from making the same choice." That night, for the first time in weeks, Maya felt a small flicker of hope. Over the next few months, Maya continued her community service. She spoke at youth centers, business workshops, and even churches. Each time, she shared her story openly. She did not hide her shame. She did not make excuses. And slowly, something began to change, not in how people saw her, but in how she saw herself. She realized that even though she had failed terribly, she could still be useful. She could still help people. She could still make a difference, not by building another business, but by teaching others to build theirs the right way. Her mother noticed a change too. One evening, she said, "Maya, you look different now. You look lighter." Maya smiled faintly. "I think I'm finally learning what real success means, Mama. It's not about money or fame. It's about peace and doing the right thing, even when it's hard." Her mother hugged her tightly. "I'm proud of you." For the first time in a long time, Maya felt like maybe, just maybe, she could forgive herself. 5 months into her community service, something unexpected happened. Maya was invited to speak at a regional small business conference in Nairobi. The invitation came from Mrs. Wanjiku, who had been watching her progress closely. "Maya," Mrs. Wanjiku said, holding the official letter, "the organizers heard about your story and your honesty. They want you to speak to over 200 entrepreneurs about business ethics." Maya's eyes widened. 200 people? "Mrs. Wanjiku, I don't think I'm ready for that. What if they judge me? What if they reject me?" Mrs. Wanjiku smiled gently. "Maya, they already know your story. That's exactly why they want you. Your honesty is your strength now. Don't hide it." The conference was 2 weeks away. Maya spent those days preparing, writing notes, and praying for courage. Her mother and sister encouraged her every step of the way. When the day finally arrived, Maya dressed simply and traveled to the conference hall in the city. The room was huge, filled with business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs, students, and even some government officials. When it was her turn to speak, her heart pounded so hard she thought everyone could hear it. She walked onto the stage, stood behind the microphone, and looked out at the sea of faces. For a moment, she froze. Then she remembered why she was there. Not to impress anyone, not to hide, but to tell the truth. She began, "My name is Maya. I was once called the caring baker. People praised my work. My shop was always full. I was making money, but I was also poisoning my customers. The room became completely silent. She continued, her voice growing stronger. I didn't start out wanting to harm anyone. I started out wanting to survive. But somewhere along the way, I confused survival with greed. I confused success with shortcuts. And I paid a terrible price. For the next 20 minutes, she told her story. The struggles, the temptation, the choices, the exposure, the collapse, and the lessons. When she finished, she said, "If there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this. Real success is not about how fast you grow. It's about how solid your foundation is. Build your business with integrity. Treat your customers like family. And when things get hard, and they will, don't compromise your values. Because once you lose trust, it's almost impossible to get it back." The room erupted in applause. Several people stood up. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others nodded in agreement. After her speech, dozens of people approached her. Some thanked her for her honesty. Others shared their own struggles and temptations. A few even asked for her advice. One young man said, "I was about to do something similar in my business. But after hearing you, I've changed my mind. Thank you for saving me from that mistake." Maya's heart swelled. For the first time, she realized that her pain had purpose. A few days after the conference, Maya received a phone call from a woman named Dr. Akinyi, who ran a nonprofit organization that trained young entrepreneurs in ethical business practices. "Maya," Dr. Akinyi said, "I was at the conference. Your story moved me deeply. I would like to offer you a position with our organization. We need someone like you, someone who has lived through failure and come out with wisdom to mentor young business owners." Maya could hardly believe what she was hearing. "You want to hire me?" "Yes, not in spite of your past, but because of it. Your story is powerful, and your honesty is rare. We need that." Tears filled Maya's eyes. "Thank you. I won't let you down." She started working with the organization the following month. Her role was to visit communities, conduct workshops, and mentor young entrepreneurs who were struggling or tempted to take shortcuts. She loved the work. It gave her purpose. It gave her peace. And most importantly, it gave her a chance to turn her greatest failure into her greatest contribution. One evening, after a long day of training, she sat with her mother and sister at home. Nia looked at her and smiled. "Sister, you're glowing now. You look happy." Maya smiled back. "I am, Nia. I finally understand what Annie Rose meant. Success isn't about money or fame. It's about integrity, peace, and using your life to help others." Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm so proud of you, my daughter. You fell, but you rose again. And you rose better." Maya closed her eyes and whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. She had lost her bakery, but she had gained something far more valuable: her character, her peace, and a second chance to live with purpose. 1 year after her release from the police station, Maya stood once again in her old neighborhood. But this time, she wasn't there to open a bakery. She was there to speak at a youth empowerment program organized by the community. The venue was packed with young people, school leavers, apprentices, small business owners, and dreamers just like she used to be. As she walked to the front, she noticed a few familiar faces in the crowd. Some were former customers. Some were people who had once insulted her. And some were simply curious. She took a deep breath and began. "A year ago, I stood in this same community as a disgrace. I had poisoned people I was supposed to serve. I had destroyed my reputation and broken the trust of everyone around me. Many of you remember. Some of you were affected. The room was quiet, but people were leaning in, listening. Today, I'm not here to make excuses or ask for applause. I'm here to share the lessons I learned the hard way, so that maybe, just maybe, someone here won't have to make the same mistakes I did." She paused and looked around the room. Lesson 1. Patience is not a weakness. When my bakery wasn't growing fast enough, I thought patience was a waste of time. I thought I needed to force success. But I was wrong. Real growth takes time. Solid businesses are built brick by brick, not overnight. If you rush, you'll cut corners. And when you cut corners, you cut your future. A few people nodded. Lesson 2. Your reputation is more valuable than money. I made money by harming people, but I lost something far more important: trust. And trust, once broken, is the hardest thing to rebuild. Protect your name. Protect your integrity. Because in the end, People will forget what you sold them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. A young woman in the front row wiped her eyes. Lesson 3. Success built on harm will never last. I thought I was being smart. I thought I had found a secret formula. But I was only fooling myself. Anything built on lies, shortcuts, or harm will eventually collapse. And when it does, it won't just hurt your business. It will hurt your soul. Maya's voice became softer, more personal. Lesson 4. It's okay to ask for help. I was too proud to admit I was struggling. I thought asking for help made me weak. But suffering in silence made me desperate, and desperation made me dangerous. If I had reached out to a mentor, a friend, or even a family member, maybe I wouldn't have made that terrible choice. She smiled faintly. And finally, lesson 5. You are not your worst mistake. Yes, I failed. Yes, I hurt people. Yes, I lost everything. But I'm still here. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. And if I can rebuild my life with honesty after everything I did, so can you. The room burst into applause. People stood to their feet. Some clapped. Some cried. Some simply sat in thoughtful silence. After the session, several young people approached her. One young man said, I was about to start adding cheap, harmful ingredients to my food business to save money. But after hearing you, I've decided not to. Thank you. A young woman said, I've been struggling with my tailoring business for months. I was losing hope, but you reminded me that slow progress is still progress. Maya hugged them both. Don't give up. Do it the right way. It's worth it. As she walked home that evening, she passed by her old bakery building. Someone else had rented it now, a phone repair shop. She stood outside for a moment, remembering everything that had happened there. She didn't feel anger. She didn't feel regret. She felt peace. Her mother met her at the door when she arrived home. How did it go? Maya smiled. It went well, Mama. Really well. Her sister Nia ran up and hugged her. Sister, one day you'll write a book about all this. Maya laughed. Maybe. But for now, I just want to keep helping people. That's enough for me. That night, before she went to bed, Maya wrote in her journal, a habit she'd picked up during her community service. Today, I learned that my story is not over. My failure was not the end. It was a painful, necessary lesson. I'm not defined by what I did wrong. I am defined by what I choose to do now. And I choose honesty. I choose patience. I choose peace. She closed the journal, turned off the light, and smiled in the darkness. Because for the first time in a long time, she knew she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Moral lessons. 1. Patience is the foundation of lasting success. When your talent is genuine, patience will reward you in the right way. Don't rush the process. 2. Real success is built on honesty, not tricks or shortcuts. If your growth comes from harming others, it may look like progress at first, but it will eventually destroy everything you worked for. 3. Protect your reputation above all else. Your name is more valuable than money. Trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy. 4. It's okay to ask for help. Struggling in silence can lead to dangerous decisions. Reach out to mentors, friends, or family when you're overwhelmed. 5. You are not your worst mistake. Failure is not final. You can rebuild, learn, and grow into someone better if you choose to. 6. Slow success with peace is better than fast success with regret. Don't sacrifice your integrity for quick wins. Build something you can be proud of for the long term. Final YouTube CTA. Thank you so much to all my amazing subscribers, especially my returning viewers. I truly appreciate your love, support, and consistency. Your likes, comments, shares, and encouragement keep this channel moving forward, and I'm grateful for every single one of you. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, and join this beautiful family. You don't want to miss the next powerful story. What did you learn from Maya's journey? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep growing together, and remember, your story isn't over. You can always start again. Love you all. Stay blessed. Red Heart. End of story.